coaches exchanging glances, and fans running to social media like something historic just happened. Because it kinda did. Shedeur Sanders, the so-called camp arm, the fifth-round curiosity, the quarterback some insiders dismissed as just a project, lit up the field in a way no one could ignore. 3 touchdowns, 8 completions on 11 attempts. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Red zone mastery. And more importantly, a level of command that felt more like a 10-year veteran than a rookie with something to prove. From the opening reps, you could feel the energy shift. It wasn't just that Sanders completed passes. It was how. His first throw of the day was a laser between 2 collapsing defenders, hitting his tight end on a timing route that only worked because Sanders anticipated the break before it even happened. That kind of timing is rare. For rookies, almost unheard of. And the touchdowns? Each one told a different story. The first came off a play-action bootleg, where Sanders had to evade an incoming linebacker, reset his feet, and hit a receiver dragging across the back of the end zone. It was clean, crisp, and creative. The second was a high-lofted fade against man coverage, one of the toughest throws for a young QB. The third, a bullet on a slant route in a collapsing pocket, with defenders all around him. It wasn't just execution. It was execution under fire. You could see the reaction, too. Players weren't just patting him on the back. They were hyped. Running backs were chest-bumping him. Linemen were dapping him up. Even defensive guys were nodding their heads like, all right, he's for real. But maybe the most telling thing? The coaching staff started moving reps around. Midway through practice, Dillon Gabriel, who had been sharing time as a presumptive number 2, started seeing his reps decline. Not completely removed, but definitely reduced. And in his place, Sanders, taking more snaps against the first-team defense. That's not a coincidence. That's a test. And he passed. In red zone drills, where space shrinks and pressure multiplies, Sanders completed 8 of 11 passes. His throws weren't just accurate, they were decisive. One of his best came on a check down, where he scanned 3 reads, waited for the linebacker to clear, and delivered a low dart to the tight end right at the pylon. Coaches dream about that kind of decision-making from rookies. Off the field, the buzz only got louder. Dan Orlovsky went on air calling Sanders the most NFL-ready quarterback in Cleveland's camp. And insiders started whispering that the Browns might be rethinking their depth chart faster than expected. You could feel the fan base start to turn. At training camp, chants for SHEDUR, SHEDUR broke out during team drills. The crowd, casual and diehard alike, could tell they were watching something different. This wasn't just a kid with a big name. This was a quarterback with real, unfiltered NFL upside. And while the numbers were flashy, what truly stood out was the intangibles. Sanders moved like a leader. He didn't just high-five his guys. He was correcting spacing, encouraging practice squad receivers, and making eye contact with his offensive line before every snap. It was subtle, but it screamed maturity. What's even more remarkable is how he's elevated himself despite being placed in a developmental track. He's been throwing routes to equipment staff, not WR1S. His reps have often come with the third-team offense, against a mix of defenders playing at half speed or desperately trying to make the roster. And still, he shines. There's something about quarterbacks who make everyone else look like they're playing a step slower. Sanders is doing that, even when surrounded by chaos. And don't forget the mobility. On one broken play, the pocket collapsed immediately. Sanders tucked the ball, sprinted toward the sideline, pump faked to freeze a linebacker, and then delivered a rope 20 yards downfield, off one foot. It was Mahomesian, not in flair, but in control, not panic, precision. That versatility matters. In today's NFL, pocket passers have to be able to extend plays, and dual-threat guys need to keep their eyes downfield. Sanders is both. His ability to run when necessary without relying on it makes him dangerous in ways that standard backups can't replicate. Of course, the Dillon Gabriel discussion isn't going away. Gabriel has had a solid camp, efficient, textbook, and safe. But where Gabriel looks like a fill-in, Sanders looks like the future. And that's the crossroads the Browns now find themselves at. Because while the plan might have been to develop Sanders slowly, stash him on the depth chart, and let him learn from a distance, his performance is forcing hands. Coaching hands, front office hands, even ownership hands. Jimmy Haslam, by multiple accounts, is already in love with the kid, the brand, the buzz, the production. It's a package. And in a market like Cleveland, where fans are starved for hope at quarterback, it's a package that sells. But here's the real question. Can you deny what the field is telling you? Because no matter what the depth chart says, practice film doesn't lie. When the offense is crisper, the receivers more engaged, and the sideline more electric with Sanders on the field, it tells you something. And for a league that insists the best player will play, you'd better believe that players in the locker room are watching too. They know who can ball. They see it every day. And they know that when a guy earns it, he should be rewarded. Otherwise, the whole system starts to feel rigged. So what happens next? Preseason. That's where all the whispers and hot takes get tested. The Browns' first preseason game is now shaping up to be one of the most important in recent franchise memory. Not for wins or losses, but for clarity. If Sanders goes out under the lights and does what he's doing in practice, it's going to be hard, really hard, for the Browns to keep him buried on the depth chart. And if he struggles, well, the league gets to breathe easy. The status quo survives another week. But let's be honest, the status quo is shaking. Because fans have seen something now. Coaches have seen something. And you can't unsee it. What happens when a rookie with everything to prove starts knocking down every door in front of him? You get moments like day 4 of Browns training camp. And if this keeps up, you get a quarterback controversy. Not the kind built on media narratives or clickbait. The kind built on performance. The kind that demands answers. The kind that might finally bring the Browns the kind of quarterback they've been chasing for decades. Shedeur Sanders isn't waiting for permission anymore. He's taking the moment, and Cleveland better be ready. By the time day 5 rolled around at Browns training camp, the buzz surrounding Shedeur Sanders wasn't just chatter. It was a full-blown frenzy. Fans showed up early, squinting down the sideline with phone cameras ready, hoping to catch the first glimpse of the rookie quarterback warming up. Every flick of his wrist, every nod to a receiver was documented like gospel. What started as a curiosity had morphed into a movement. And while the coaching staff might have hoped to keep things business as usual, the tone of practice said otherwise. This time, Shedeur wasn't buried in third-string reps or lobbing balls to undrafted receivers. He was rotating in more frequently with the second unit, and on a few surprising series, took snaps alongside the projected starters. No official announcement, no dramatic reveal, just an undeniable shift, one that said, "We see you," and he didn't disappoint. On his first drive in 11-on-11s, Shedeur orchestrated a methodical march down the field. 5 plays, 3 completions, 1 15-yard scramble, and a touchdown laser to the back corner of the end zone. The throw was placed with such surgical precision that even the defensive backs, mid-jog back to the huddle, gave each other those subtle, that was legit nods. The kind of throw that says this wasn't a fluke. This was command. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel struggled with timing. A few short hitches behind his receivers, a red zone misfire, and a near pick that had the crowd audibly gasp. Not disastrous, but not enough to silence the growing comparisons. And comparisons are poison in quarterback rooms, especially when one guy is rising and the other is treading water. But the drama wasn't just between Sanders and Gabriel. Over on the sideline, Deshaun Watson was locked into every throw Shedeur made, arms crossed, jaw tight, watching. It was a look of a man who knew the spotlight might not stay off him for long, despite the guaranteed money. Because in the NFL, you can't buy silence forever. Not when a kid in the rear-view mirror is making noise with every snap. Inside the facility, tension simmered. The coaching staff, particularly offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt, was said to be impressed but cautious. He'd seen training Camp Darlings flame out before. He wanted more consistency, more time, more tape, but even he couldn't deny the flash. The uncanny ability to see windows before they opened, the pocket presence, the effortless rhythm that Sanders brought to a playbook designed for structure. He didn't just play within it, he stretched it. Head coach Kevin Stefanski was stuck between a rock and a rocket ship. On one hand, his system was built to be QB-friendly, plug-and-play, dependent on timing and intelligence more than raw improvisation. On the other hand, Shedeur was doing something no coach wants to admit. He was freelancing just enough to make the plays work better than they were drawn up. That's a gift, or a threat, depending on your job security. And then there was the elephant in the room, Andrew Berry, the GM and architect of the quarterback room that was quickly turning into a live-action referendum on front office decisions. He'd invested capital, real and reputational, in Dillon Gabriel and Kenny Pickett. Shedeur was a Haslam pick, a late-round swing, a political wild card, and now he was making everyone else look like background noise. After practice, media questions came in hot. Stefanski deflected. All of our quarterbacks are getting valuable reps. We like what we're seeing across the board. It was the kind of line designed to cool the fire. But the problem was, the fire wasn't internal anymore. It was public. Fans were chanting Sanders' name during drills. Local radio hosts had dedicated entire segments to breaking down his footwork. ESPN had dispatched a segment producer to Cleveland. This wasn't depth chart filler behavior. This was buzz. And buzz in the NFL is a currency you can't control once it starts circulating. That night, inside team meetings, something shifted again. Shedeur was called on more than usual in the QB room. Asked to lead film breakdowns. Asked to diagnose coverages on screen. His answers were quick, confident, clean, and every time he spoke, a few more heads turned. It's not just about being right in those moments. It's about owning the room. That's what quarterbacks do. And Shedeur, he was doing it. Back in the hotel later that evening, players scrolled social media. The practice clips were everywhere. Sanders' tight spiral into double coverage. His scramble and reset touchdown throw. The subtle pump fake that froze the safety just long enough to create separation. It wasn't just fans hyping him up. It was former NFL players, analysts, quarterback coaches chiming in to say, this kid gets it. Meanwhile, the divide in the building was growing. Haslam was reportedly energized. The idea of Sanders as a homegrown breakout star had dollar signs dancing in his head. Jerseys were already moving. Ticket sales had spiked. The business side of the Browns was ready to ride the Sanders train full speed ahead. But Berry saw risk. A rookie thrown into the fire too early. A volatile situation if Pickett returned healthy and wanted his job back. A media circus waiting to happen if Deshaun faltered again and Sanders looked like the heir apparent. But you can't stop a moment once it starts. Not when it's this loud. The next day, reps shifted again. This time, Shedeur opened practice with the second-team offense, but saw extended periods with the starters during red zone sequences. And for the third practice in a row, he led a scoring drive. His chemistry with Amari Cooper was starting to show. Quick outs, back shoulder throws, a perfectly placed sideline dart that even Cooper seemed a little surprised by. After the play, the veteran receiver walked back to the huddle, looked over his shoulder at Sanders, and nodded. It was subtle, but it was real. Respect. That's how it starts in the NFL. Not with big speeches or bold declarations, but with one rep at a time. One throw, one look, and Shedeur, he was stacking them. After practice, Shedeur finally spoke to the media. Calm, collected, measured. When asked about the pressure, he smiled. There's no pressure when you prepare. Every day is a chance. I just want to be ready when they call my number. It was a kind of answer that doesn't make headlines, but hits hard inside locker rooms. Coaches love it. Teammates trust it. And fans, they eat it up. As night fell on the fifth day of camp, the message was clear. Shedeur Sanders wasn't just surviving camp. He was owning it, one pass at a time. The only question left, how long can the Browns pretend there isn't a quarterback battle anymore? By the sixth day of Browns training camp, the media tents were pitched a little closer. The cameras lingered a little longer.